One day, in a small village, they lived a little girl called Caro. Caro was from a poor but happy family that valued education and self-worth. Caro's parents made sure they brought her up in a way that would make her happy and respected, despite the fact that they were poor among the rest of the villagers. Caro's parents loved and cared for her so much that she was the only treasure they had after a marriage of 14 years. So they promised to make her a successful person in their community. Caro's father had a very large portion of land that he inherited from his own father, but this land had been an issue between Caro's father and his brother, Mr. Felix. Caro's father was not ready to give up on the land because it was given to him by his father, and that was the only reason he was surviving. But his brother, Mr. Felix, who was richer, wanted the land by all means, which led to a total fight. One day, Caro's mother prepared dinner and served her husband with the food. While her husband was eating, she began to advise him. "Please, my husband, I don't like the way you and your brother, Mr. Felix, are fighting over that land. Please just leave the land for him, if that will end the problem," she said. "What? You want me to give my only land to my brother, the land my father gave to me right in his presence? Do you know that land is the reason why we are eating in this house?" Caro's father said to his wife. "Yes, I know, my husband. But if it is bringing problems, then just leave it to him. God knows the best," Caro's mother said to her husband. "Please allow me to eat this food in peace. If my brother continues to fight me, I will take this issue to the village elders," Caro's father said. "Please do so, my husband. Take it to the village council so this problem will be solved once and for all," Caro's mother said. Caro just sat down as little as she was. She saw how sad her father was, and she knew that the land belonged to her father. "Papa, don't worry. The land belongs to you, and the village elders will support you in this matter," Caro said. "Ah, my little child, you are such a brave girl. My God will guide you," Caro's father said to her little girl. The next day, Caro's father and his family went to farm on their land. While they were working on the land, Mr. Felix, Caro's uncle, came and started chasing them out of the land. "How many times have I warned you to stay out of this land?" "Don't try me," Mr. Felix said. "You cannot chase me out of my own land. This land was given to me by our father, and you know that," Caro's father replied. "If I ever see you in this land again, I repeat, if I ever see you in this land again, you will not like what I will do to you," Mr. Felix said, and left with so much anger. "My husband, please just leave this land to your brother," Caro's mother said, crying. "Shut up your mouth. I cannot live this land for him. I can't. In fact, I'm going to report him to our village council now," Caro's father said, leaving the farm. Caro's father went and made the report to the village council, and they invited Mr. Felix for a meeting. "My elders, this problem between Mr. Marcus and Mr. Felix is becoming too much. Let's bring this issue to an end," one of the elders said. So these elders discussed for a long time. They battled over who was the rightful owner of the land. Well, after everything, it was announced that the land was owned rightfully by Mr. Marcus, Caro's father. Mr. Felix, Caro's uncle, was very sad with the elders' decision. "I will never allow my brother to take that land. If he wins the case physically, then take it to a spiritual fight," Mr. Felix said. Some days later, Mr. Marcus and his family went again to farm peacefully on their land since the problem had been resolved. While they were farming, suddenly Mr. Marcus and his wife began coughing in a strange way. Caro's was surprised. "Mama, Papa, why are the both of you coughing like that? That cough doesn't sound normal to me," Caro said worriedly. But soon the cough increased to the point where both parents fell to the ground and began struggling to breathe. "Mama! Mama! Papa! Papa! What is going on? Please talk to me," Caro said, and she began crying for help. She ran out of the farm and ran back immediately. She was confused about whether she should stay with her parents or go and call for help. "Mama, please talk to me," Caro said, crying. Some passers-by who saw the incident quickly ran to the scene, but all their attempts to save lives were in vain. Caro's parents stopped breathing, and the both of them died right on that farmland. Caro was a child, but she knows what death means. She cried and rolled herself on the ground till she got tired. Her parents' deaths were not normal, but no one could speak. Caro knew that her uncle, Mr. Felix, must be. Speak! Caro knew that her uncle, Mr. Felix, must be the one behind their deaths. Well, both parents were buried immediately the next day, leaving all the villagers to cry bitterly because Mr. Marcus was a simple and generous person in the community. Well, Caro, who was 8 years old, had to go and live with his uncle because she had no other relatives to rely on. That was where Caro saw hell and suffered upon suffering. After some arrangements, Caro packed her belongings and followed her uncle to his house, which was a little bit far from where she lived with her parents. Caro wondered why the villagers didn't even make any investigation about the deaths of her parents, which made her feel very sad. Well, she followed Uncle Felix to his house. She was surprised to see that her uncle lives in a big mansion in the village. What could be the exact reason why her uncle is still fighting her father, even when he has all the wealth in life? They arrived at exactly 12 p.m. in the afternoon, and with the very hot weather that day, Mr. Felix realized that his wife was not around at that moment. But a few seconds later, Mr. Felix's wife entered the room with her 3 children. "Oh, my husband, you are back," Felix said to her husband. "Yes, it was really a stressful one. Well, we have buried them successfully, and this is my brother's child. She will be staying with us from now on," Mr. Felix said. "And please show her her room so she can drop these dirty things she called her belongings," Mr. Felix said, going to his room. Caro was trying to sit down on the couch, but her uncle's wife began shouting at her immediately. "So you want to use your smelling and dirty body to sit on my chair? Thanks to God you didn't, or else I would have shown you my true colors," Mrs. Felix shouted at her. That moment, Caro knew that she had entered the wrong part of life. She stood sadly. "Now pack your dirty bags and follow me. You are not staying with me inside this house. I will show you where you can stay," her auntie said. Caro obeyed immediately. Caro followed her auntie at the back as she walked outside the house. "Now this is where you will be staying." Her auntie pointed at a very dirty old store. "Thank you," Caro said with much respect. Caro hasn't forgotten all the good things her parents have been teaching her. Her parents once told her to obey people even when they were doing the wrong things to her. "Go and drop your dirty bags inside, then come back and meet me in the house. I have some work for you to do," her auntie said, and left. Caro walked gently into the old room. The room was messed up with animals. Sure, they must have been keeping animals in that room before. Caro felt so sad after she saw where she would be staying. This brought tears to her face as she thought about her dead parents. "I can't stay in this room like this. I have to clean it up," Caro said, and she began arranging the room, sweeping and dusting the whole room, even as little as she was. While she was cleaning her room, one of her uncle's children, David, came out and saw her cleaning the room. David was the second child of Mr. Felix, and he is just 9 years old. "What are you doing in that room?" David asked. "Good afternoon. This is my room. It looks very dirty, so I decided to clean it up before packing in," Caro said politely. "What are you joking? That is not a room for human beings. That room is where my parents keep our animals. Although all the animals have been sold, please come inside the house if you want a room, and please next time don't greet me again." "I'm just a kid like you," David said. "Please, I don't think I can do that. I was instructed to stay here," Caro said sadly. Just as the 2 kids were speaking, Auntie Helen came outside and saw her child talking with Caro. She got really angry. Immediately she went close to Caro and landed her a very big slap. "What are you doing with my child, you little witch?" "Oh, so you want to kill my child like you did to your parents?" Auntie Helen said it with anger. "I am sorry, Ma. I am really sorry, Ma," Caro said, as she cries. You better be sorry, because the next time I see you with my child again, I will end you myself, Auntie Helen said. But Mom, this room is for animals. Why tell her to stay there? David asked. I told her to stay here because she looks exactly like an animal, and don't ever talk to her again. She is not your sister. She is a witch that killed her own parents, Auntie Helen said, and she went inside with her son. Caro dropped the broom she was holding and began crying bitterly. Please come back to me, my lovely parents, she said as she cried. A few minutes later, Auntie Helen came out again and threw a huge number of clothes on Caro. Since you are here, make sure you wash those clothes properly, and if I see any stain on them, I will beat the devil out of you. Here is some detergent, her auntie said. Caro gathered the clothes together. Although she knows how to wash clothes, she is still learning. There was no sun in the compound, so Caro stayed under the hot sun and began struggling with the clothes. While Mrs. Helen and her kids were enjoying themselves inside the house, Mr. Felix came out of his room and saw his children playing along with his wife. "Where is Caro?" he asked. "I gave her some clothes to watch outside. Don't worry, she will be fine," Helen said. "Don't be hard on that little girl. I don't think she is strong enough for any house chores," Mr. Felix said. "Oh, then what is her reason for staying with us? So you want me to be doing the chores when we have a stranger leaving with us?" Helen said. "Even if you want to give her some work, at least not today. She is just arriving, and you are putting that load on her. It is not fair," he said. "See who is speaking. So you are now pretending to be a good man after kill—" "Shut up your mouth," Mr. Felix quickly interrupted what his wife was about to say. "Anyway, I'm going to see a friend," he said and left. Auntie Helen came out again and saw Caro washing the clothes. She went close to her and raised some of the clothes that Caro had washed already. She quickly landed her another hot slap. "Are you mad? I told you to wash my clothes, not to spoil my clothes. Do you know the price of them?" Auntie Helen said angrily. "Auntie, I am sorry. Maybe the clothes are too big for my hands," Ngozi replied with so many tears. "I will make sure you regret coming into this house, witch. In fact, there will be no food for you until tomorrow. Subscribe to our channel for more updates.